I'm Carrie.
I'm Tony, and we are
Two Cranky Creatives.
Thank you for listening. And remember, if you're impatient, allergic to ads, or just want to support our cranky little corner of the podcast world, join the Cranky Club. Subscribers get ad-free episodes and early access. Yep, a whole week early. Hit subscribe and join the club.
What are we cranky about today, Shannon?
Well, I am really cranky about artists not charging enough for their artwork.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it too. Well, everybody, please welcome Shannon McNab. She is our guest today. And Shannon, I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Sure. So I am Shannon McNab. I am an artist, former educator, and now agent with Jennifer Nelson Artist. I have been in the surface design industry since 2016 and have licensed with a bunch of companies. Probably my favorite project ever was with Pyrex. That's my favorite one to talk about. And I moved from the San Francisco Bay Area in 2021 to Dublin, Ireland, where I live now with my husband and my dog. And yeah, it's just life in the slow lane.
I love it. And I got to tell you, once I got into surface design and I found you sent something, posted something, I'm not even sure, but it showed the Pyrex that you had. And I was like, holy shit, I bought that.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. I was like, I owned that.
Which one was it? Oh, yeah.
I don't even remember right now. It got lost in a move or broke or something, but I was like, no, I distinctly remember buying that.
Every once in a while, I will get an email from someone who found it on Google and is like, oh, I want like the dinosaur one I did for their grandson or something like that. And they're all discontinued. So
yeah.
I told them, I'm so sorry. Like I have mine and like they don't even get used for food anymore because I now know they're discontinued. But yeah.
Yeah, but they were so pretty and so cute.
Yeah, I saw pictures too. Yeah, I love those. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for joining us. So, Tony and I have mentioned you specifically on the podcast multiple times up to this point because, first of all, we love you and we've learned so much from you. But secondly, because you put out the surface design industry survey. So before we go today, I absolutely want to talk about that. But let's talk about what you're cranky about too.
Yeah.
Well, it's very much tied to the survey, if I'm being honest, right? Like, artists not charging enough. Well, why do I know that? Because I run the annual survey about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. To what Carrie said, do y'all watch John Oliver at all?
Oh yeah.
So he does
not regularly, but yeah.
Not right. But his and now this segments, and then he'll pick like some random local newscaster, and he's like, yeah, they really love, I don't know, like their hobby or something. And then they show like the supercut of, they mention it like 100 times. I feel like they could do a supercut of us at this point, be like, and the survey that Shannon McNab puts out.
Yep. Yeah, I could probably go back through all of our episodes and do some John Oliver magic and be like, surface design industry survey, like at least 5 or 6 times at this point. And that's just from season 1. So,
yeah. But no, it's so valuable. And thank you so much for doing it and for continuing it very much. So, but yeah, so people not charging enough. So tell us more, Shannon.
So, I mean, there's so much I could say. My mind is literally just stuck to the brim right now. So I would say a lot of it is there's so many people in this industry, especially new people entering every single year, taking, certain classes or whatever, and not really getting the full picture of what it takes to make it in this industry. And a big piece of that to me that was always missing, and that's why I had a class about pricing when I was still an educator, was that, we need to charge more. And, having pricing information is so valuable and so needed. And so a lot of it, I think, is just the lack of conversations happening around it on every level. Veterans to newbies, veterans to veterans, even, educators to their students, right? Mm-hmm. There needs to be just more conversations about it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I started the survey. That's why I did a lot of the things I did when I still, was running Sketch Design Repeat, my education business, because I was so annoyed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That the pricing was so low. So it's like, obviously a lot of the onus is kind of on us as a community. But I think one of the other bits is the confidence issue. So many artists, especially if they're new to this industry and maybe didn't come from an art background, which we actually know from the survey is a decent percentage of people, they probably don't have the confidence of someone like me who started in graphic design, and so it's like, of course I'm going to charge more because I've already been, living in the art world for a little bit longer. And so just, it's one of those chicken and egg situations, right? Where it's like, you have to have the confidence to charge more, but you have to charge more and earn those numbers to feel good about yourself. So those are kind of, to me, the two biggest things is more needs to be just talked about, and then the confidence issue.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's some gatekeeping happening in those discussions? Like, I don't really understand why we don't talk more about what we're charging. Like, I remember, God, just feeling like I was going blind. I mean, I have done freelance graphic design, so I knew what I was charging there, right? And I always positioned myself as kind of like, not exclusive, but like, if you were paying for me, you were paying for me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so, so I've always charged a little bit more than maybe what somebody else like newer coming in, but I've also had the luxury of having a full-time job the whole time. But like when I came into surface design, feeling like I couldn't get anybody to tell me just what the fuck are you charging for this?
Right. Yeah. What will these companies pay? And there's so many industries like that you could license your art to. It's like, is the home decor and tabletop industry going to pay differently than wall murals, than apparel, than tech accessories? It's like, and greeting cards, like they're all so different, and it's so confusing.
Right. And I think that's one of the challenges specifically within the surface design industry is there is so much variability between the different markets, and even the same market, two different companies will have wildly different pricing, so there is no standardization. Like, I have talked randomly with a couple people like, oh, wouldn't it be amazing if there was like a union for us, right? To help with this kind of thing. Like, I don't think anything like that sadly will ever exist, but God, wouldn't it be amazing?
Yeah. Well, I was actually just thinking about, like, when we're talking about the standardization before you even said union. So I'm still in a film union. I worked as a film and TV graphic designer for 16 years. And I will never leave that union. I'm considered inactive now because I'm quote unquote retired, but I will never ever let that connection go. Right. But that was one thing that was amazing because I was a graphic designer in film, and I worked on everything from little indie, movies to like big feature films to like episodic TV shows with, companies like Paramount and whatever. But they all have different pricing standards for, what they're doing, what the show is going to cost them, et cetera. But having a union was amazing because I had, first of all, collective bargaining power, but secondly, just knowing that what the standard rates were. I didn't have to sit there and be like, granted, sometimes I would, but typically I could say, look, you don't want me. It's a union show. I'm a union employee. You don't pay the union rates. First of all, I'm not going to work for you. Secondly, you're going to get in trouble because you can't do that.
Yeah, there's going to be some consequence, right, for them not. Yeah, and I mean that's the thing is, so I think a lot of artists don't realize that negotiation is expected in almost every interaction you have with an art director. And they're never going to be the one to be like, oh yeah, sure, I'll pay you more. Like, they're never going to be the one offered up, right? Like, their whole point is to try and get their costs down, and we're trying to get our income up, right? And so there's this battle that always happens.
Yeah, I think the closest thing to what am I trying to say? Because my thoughts went in two different directions. I think the closest thing to union would be the Art Brand Alliance. Yeah. It's where people can come together. There is a whole group just about pricing, and people are very willing to share. But of course, that is not cheap to be a member of the Art Brand Alliance. Yeah. And then the other thing I was thinking about is the Graphic Arts Guild. Is that the right name? It's on a shelf behind me, but I'd have to go look.
The guideline pricing thing. I was a contributor for the most recent one that I think just came out this year.
Yeah, it did. It just came out. I have to buy the new one. But
still, even in that, which again, at least gives some information, some of the ranges of pricing in that are enormous. And so, I don't know how many times I've heard on, in a Facebook group for artists where they're like, this is, just go check the gag book, right? Like, the abbreviation, right? But it's like, well, should I charge 500 or should I charge 5,000? Like, what end of the spectrum are we looking at, right?
Right.
Well, it's so focused on, obviously illustration is in there, but I don't know if as a surface pattern designer who's licensing your art, I don't know how valuable that would be as compared to if you're a graphic designer doing freelance projects for something like the Olympics, like it's just a very different type of project.
Yeah. And it does take a certain level of understanding who you're designing for as well.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I appreciate that they have brought, because back when I was a graphic designer, I had it for graphic design and it was fantastic. I would say they've definitely tried, to have that olive branch. And I know a bunch of artists like me in the surface design area that have been, contributors. And so it's nice that they are listening and we do get to be part of it, but it's still, to me, the aggregate data is just too broad.
No, I agree.
That's the reason why I started my survey is like, okay, well, even if these aren't the numbers that people should be charging, at least this is the numbers that they are charging.
Right.
And the numbers of what they're actually getting.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I love about your survey is because people can say all day that they charge whatever, but if they are charging this and they don't have any clients or they're not getting any work, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it's good for me to know, what are people actually paying?
Right. Yeah. And I think you added, maybe it was in there before and I didn't pay attention to it, but last year you added the median, which I thought was so important because, okay, we understand that you became a surface designer and maybe you only got 2 deals or maybe this. And so your income was very small. And then of course you have like the mega earners that are out there. And
the outliers.
Exactly. But when you just see like the range and then it's like, and not the average because the average skews it, but the median
almost always skews up.
Exactly. It can't not. And so I was like, oh, thank God she put the median in here. And that tells a completely different story.
Oh, yeah. I had thought about doing it in previous years, but, and maybe it's just how salty I've become and just how jaded I've become over the years, where last year the numbers went down from the year before and we had higher participation, which means that they're probably more accurate, and so I was just kind of honestly fed up that I was like, okay, you guys really want to know what the, because median does tend to be more accurate for most people than averages. I'm like, okay, here's the deal, POD, almost everyone makes less than $1,000 a year on it, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But, when you counter that information against, and no disrespect or shade to anybody, but like the dream building classes that are out there, like that is critical information that you need to understand is that yes, you can earn money. Yes. And and no one's clearly defining what success is. Are you successful on POD if you earned less than $1,000 compared to the person who earns $2? Yes, you are. Right.
Yeah.
But is that paying?
Yeah. What's your level of success to you?
Exactly. Like, are you paying for all your living expenses with POD? Probably not.
No.
Maybe coffee money,
right.
Coffee runs. But yeah,
exactly.
I think there's this, I mean, it has been, I think, because of some of the big classes and everything, but this like 100,000, like 6-figure income, right? Like that's always the gold standard. And I'm like, almost no one makes that.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
And like, especially not in a single income. Like if you extrapolate it out on like, everyone on all their income streams, including non-art, it's higher. But almost no one, like I know only of one person, like I personally know, who makes 6 figures each year in licensing. But like that's all she does.
Right.
And she's also been working since like 2006 or something.
Right.
She's been doing this forever and built that business.
Right.
So like the disingenuousness of like I started last year and I make 6 figures and I work 10 hours a week. I fucking hate that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's one of the trends I've noticed over the last couple of years in the education space. And it is one of the reasons that I decided to not be a part of the education space anymore, is like, this is not my club anymore, because I don't believe in a lot of the shit that's getting shoveled around.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You are speaking my language, because I teach on Skillshare. They've been good to me. And I can kind of come up with what, like my last class was on drawing bows. So obviously it had nothing to do with like making promises about income or whatever. But, I've thought about, because so many Skillshare teachers have gone on to create their own a la carte classes. And I'm sure that they've become really successful and earned a lot of income doing that. But I just don't have the heart to do it, because I don't know what I would teach. I'd be afraid of making false promises. And I can't not teach it with a business, at least some kind of business spin on it. I mean, I guess I could just do, here's how to draw stuff. But that's one of the reasons I haven't come up with a class. I just teach on Skillshare and do some tutorials in our Patreon. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the funny part, is like, that's like, you're the type of person I'd want to teach, because of literally what you just said. Like I got started on Skillshare too. I don't know if you know that, but
I've seen your classes.
I've taken your classes.
Yeah, me too. Your Airtable class, actually, specifically. So.
Oh yeah, Airtable is still my jam. We use it at the agency every day, and Jennifer, like literally once a week, would be like, "Oh my God, I love Airtable so much." But yeah, so I got started on Skillshare myself. Top teacher in the whole nine. I was never fully happy with their payment structure and felt like they don't pay enough for what we provide them with, and so that's why I started my own education business, and did my own thing.
Yeah.
And I always I didn't want to do the like draw this, draw that. I wanted to do the business stuff because no one else, I felt like, was teaching it,
Yeah.
So like Picture Portfolio was by far my biggest class that I ever put out. And I'm really proud of it, because I do feel like it helped a lot of people, and I tried as much as possible not to, oversell it and say, you're going to have the level of success that I had and all of that. And I also feel like more than other people, I've been transparent about how much I make in education. Like, I think it was 2021 or 2020. Like it's still on Sketch Design Repeat, but I literally break down how much I make from teaching versus other things, and I think there's, in the education space, a lot of people are afraid to do that, because if people only knew how little they actually made, like, in 2020 or 2021, it was only like 20 or 30% of my total income came from licensing and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I had fully transitioned into education, and it's like, okay, well, be real, tell it like it is.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I got to tell, like, coming from writing, I was shocked at the percentage for royalties in art, because they are minuscule compared to the royalty structure for writing. And I was just like, and honestly, that was another reason why I was never like I've said this before, like the work Carrie puts into licensing her art, I don't have time to do it, because I do have a full-time job.
Right.
But also for that royalty structure,
yeah,
like I'm like,
it's different for different.
Clients. I know that.
Yeah,
but
writing, I mean, it's a lot of work for not a lot of return.
And this
sometimes
is
I get
another
lucky.
element of the pricing discussion too. Like for those of you listening who love royalties, what I always got annoyed with artists is they would come and say, here's the percentage that I'm offered. Is this good? And I'm like, well, you don't have enough information.
Right.
You can't know just from, because, like 2% on something that's, sells hundreds of thousands of units could be amazing. Right. But 2% on something that sells like 200 is going to be, you're going to get a $2 check. And like, we've all gotten those. Right. So, again, that is definitely on the artist to ask more questions. You need to know how many products they plan on selling, what the product price is, and then you multiply those three numbers and see, okay, how much could I potentially earn? Right. And is that worth it? And if it ends up only being like, a couple $100, like, is it really something you want to spend your time doing?
Right. Especially if it's exclusive. That's one of the big things for me that's my first question is it exclusive? Because, it's one thing if I'm going to license something and make a $2 check, I probably won't want to do it, but it's not as big of a deal if I can license that same thing other places. Now, granted, if I license it non-exclusively with somebody and then somebody comes along and wants a buyout on it or exclusive and I'm tied down for 2 years, obviously that is, that can be a challenge. But at least I'm not like, oh, you're the only one that has access to this for 2 years and you're going to give me $2. I don't think so.
Right. Yeah. You need to make the juice worth the squeeze, right? Like, and that's why, again, there's so much variability, like how long you give the duration of the license, where they're selling it, like worldwide versus just in North America. That's still a difference, right? And so there's all these nuances, which again is why sometimes artists can be a little deer in the headlights, which I totally understand when it comes to pricing, because you're just like, oh my God, can sometimes be almost too much information. But yeah, you need to make sure that it feels worth it to you,
Yeah. I think, and Shannon, correct me if I'm coming at this the wrong way, but as we were talking, one of the things that was coming up for me is I think that there's also an improper focus on who you're competing against when it comes to pricing your services, right? And by that, what I mean is, as an artist, it's easy to think I am competing against the $50 surface seamless repeat pattern on Etsy, right? But that's not really what you're competing against, because if somebody wants that, you aren't who they want anyway. They really just want that $50 pattern. They're not looking for your expertise. They're not looking for your knowledge, your skill, any of that. They want a cheap deal, done. So your style, your expertise, your time, that is what we are charging for, right? We are an expert in what we do. And I think that maybe that's something that is not understood when we come into this pricing discussion, right? I remember, and again, this goes to the corporate world, but I remember getting into an argument with one of my bosses around like a performance review. And he was kind of getting into the nitty gritty with me about the fact that sometimes I was late to work in the mornings and some of this other stuff. And I was like, you're not paying me for the 5 minutes I'm late. You're paying me for my expertise, buddy. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, so we're not going to discuss that, because all the times I stayed and worked through lunch, all the times I stayed late, you're not taking that into account. You pay me for my expertise, not those fucking 5 minutes.
Right.
But like, that's a mindset that a lot of, especially I think artists don't necessarily adopt.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is, many of us fall into this or find it and like go, oh, this is so much fun. I'm having this is just bringing me joy, and therefore it's worth less money because I have enjoyment from it. Right. And my argument was always like, well, there are some lawyers who absolutely love what they do. Yeah. But they still charge like $1,100 an hour.
Right. Exactly.
Who cares if you love what you do? Like, it's still, it needs to be way more valuable than the value that you, for whatever reason, perceive it as less than. I always tell people, if you had the, you should adopt the confidence of a middle-aged white man when you're pricing.
Nice. Yeah. Right? So
I like that.
Because I mean, most of this industry is women. I think it's like 99% from our survey, right, is women. And we tend to charge less in every industry than men, right? Like we don't ask for promotions as much. We don't ask for raises as much. And so there is also a gender issue as well, you know? Yeah. And so I think that does not help us any too, right, in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, I have to jump in too, because we're talking about who you're competing against, you know, the pattern on Etsy or creative market. There's also the idea that we're competing against AI now. Yeah. You know, it's like, and I mean, I'm not saying that like you can get on AI today and make a high resolution 300 to 600 DPI, beautiful, you know, pattern that's 20 inches wide by tall, that's a perfect repeat and has no flaws in it. But, you know, that doesn't mean that by the time this airs, you can't. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, yeah, the rate at which it's learning is ridiculous. But I mean, like personally, for me, I have a very strong feeling with, specifically in this industry, surface design, on, you know, like people are like, oh my gosh, is our industry dead? And like we even, like I added it as a question to the survey a couple of years ago, like, how do you feel about AI and how it jives with the industry, right? Is that the companies who are going to adopt AI are not going to be the companies that you're going to want, that aren't going to pay you well anyway. You know, they're going to be the people who are looking for the $50 item and everything. Like those aren't the clients you want. The clients you do want are the ones who literally are putting into their contracts that this is not made with AI. Right. And make the artist sign them. And we've had that, you know, at the agency, you know, multiple companies that we've worked with for a long time are like, oh, can you add this to the contract? Yeah. You know, and so there are those companies, you know, out there that value artists, that will pay you better prices and are way less likely to use AI. Yeah. So like that's who people need to be focused on. And it's not always apparent, you know, at the initial, you know, pitching stage what a company is, but
yeah, those companies are out there, and sometimes it seems like they're not. So last thing I have to say, Tony, I don't want to interrupt you, but is part of it, and it kind of leans into the scarcity mindset, which I think is, me personally, my own history with charging too little or going, oh no, you know, I still, you know, well, I guess I don't do that now, but I mean, I did that recently, where I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to write back and give them too high of a price because then they might run away. And oh my God, where's my next meal going to come from? You know, and that combined with the fear that the company might just say, well, I can just go get this somewhere else cheaper or generate it myself. And when you don't know whether the company is going to do that or not, you don't know enough about them. Anyway, that it's kind of a recipe for disaster. It's like, you just have to keep telling yourself that, you know, if they're going to do that, then they're not who you want to work with.
Right. And again, it's that kind of does come back to the confidence. And I mean, even a veteran like me, you know, I mean, I haven't negotiated for myself in a while. Right now I negotiate for our artists at the agency, but I mean, there's still those jitters of like, oh gosh, like, am I pricing too high? But like, I had done it enough to know, like, no, I'm definitely, you know, right on track. And if, you know, a company comes back and, you know, yeah, of course they can find someone cheaper, you know, but they can't find someone cheaper who does what I do, you know? And so it's being confident in what you have to offer, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I looked at my pricing structure from a freelance perspective as weeding out the clients I don't want. Yeah. Right. Like, so, you know, here's, you know, and like, I'll talk to anybody. What do you want? You know, yes, we can do a flat rate, but then I always put my hourly rate into the contract for like changes and stuff like that, you know, and sometimes that freaks them out. And I'm like, no, that's my hourly rate, you know, and like, if you are freaked out by this, I don't want to work with you.
Yeah, it's not going to be a good relationship. Yeah.
You know, I'm like, no. And so like, I've had a couple people where it's like, they ask for a quote and they're all excited. And then they get my quote and they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, well, that's what I charge. Yeah. You know, and I'm like, you can go elsewhere and you can get somebody, you know, cheaper than me, and you will get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, and, but I did not have that confidence originally. And then it was really strange. I can't even remember. I was probably in the middle of getting my MBA because this was the early 2000s. And we had to do all these case studies, right? Like study all these case studies. And me being me, I chose to do a case study on coffee, which we can always talk about on a different day. And but also on the luxury accessories market. And so, I'm talking Louis Vuitton, Hermès, like all of them. And it was really illuminating for me to see that, with rare exception, right? Like, what's the Birkin? One of the most expensive handbags in the world. You're paying $15,000 to $20,000 or more for these, but that is not what they cost to produce.
Oh no,
Yeah.
It's all about the cachet of having it.
Right. It's the name. Now, granted, that $15,000 Birkin probably does cost somewhere around $1,500 to $2,000 to produce it because of the materials they're sourcing, but that's not $15,000. You're paying for the name. And it was kind of like illuminating to me at that moment to be like, oh, what you need to do is infuse your cachet. And it was in that a couple years later, I had that argument during the performance review. Like, no, you pay me for my expertise, but
right. I mean, they're paying for your name. I mean, not really, but yes, they are, because you bring unique things. Yeah.
Right.
It's what's the value, right? With a luxury brand, it's the like, oh, look at me, look at what I have. I'm keeping up with the Joneses. That's the value there. With us as artists, it's what we have to offer. Like, how amazing our art is, our art process, like there's so much we honestly have to offer. And especially with surface design, one of my favorite things to tell people is literally our art sells the frickin' product.
Yes.
Like, my pattern or my illustration was not on that gift bag or greeting card. Like, they're not going to sell the blank greeting card. They're that is literally what is selling it. So if you're not valuing yourself, or you're like, hey, I'm actually helping you sell this product and sell a lot of it.
Exactly. Exactly. But that's like, and I do believe at some level that is the conditioning of women. With our industry being so female dominated, I think that we have that conditioning to place ourselves behind others. I'm not going to say to be devalued, even though there's definitely an argument for that, but we are absolutely conditioned to put what we need behind somebody else. And I think when we get into the business world, it seeps in, even if we're not thinking about it. An amazing book that I read that changed everything about how I navigated the corporate world was a book called Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. And I still recommend it. I mean, it's not necessarily like you're not trying to become like president of a corporation in our industry, but what it was a book of how intrinsic female behavior, subconscious is the better word, subconscious female behavior, like undermines us in the business world. Right. And it would be things like playing with your necklace, sitting cross-legged in meetings, or how like women tend to sit back in their chair, but men will lean forward and put their like fists on the desk. And I shit you not, I read this book. I started doing what the fucking book said. And then within about 3 years, I was the youngest vice president of a national nonprofit. And I was just like, holy fuck. Right.
Yeah. There's a whole theory behind just posture alone.
Yeah.
Sitting up straight, putting your shoulders back. And that's just whether you're a man or a woman. I mean, I definitely have seen men do it too, but it's a confidence thing. Even if you don't have that confidence, you just fake it till you make it.
Right.
And you do, like, if you're standing up straight and your shoulders are back, you are helping circulate oxygen better in your body because your lungs are more open. So there's definitely something to be said for that. But yeah, I mean, it is a very woman dominated industry, and, we're used to being hushed, when someone is talking that isn't us, that is maybe a man in the room or whatever, not always, but often. And, it only has to happen a few times where you kind of, absorb that and internalize it.
Yeah.
So, and then you do it to yourself without realizing
you don't even realize it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think something that's interesting, I mean, because again, I've been in the industry for, about a decade now, but there's even been such a such a shift even in the last decade with corporate pay, for example, like, and just how asinine the CEO and upper level management pay is. And that is never something that has come into a conversation in our realm. And it's something that has always amazed me. And I actually have an example, if you guys don't mind.
No, please.
So as you know, Joanne's is no longer with us.
Yeah.
Their CEO, I think this was 2023 or 2024, made $2.7 million.
Wow.
Oh,
that's a lot.
And a lot of that is options and,
Yeah.
But like, I forget what the base pay was, but it's an asinine amount of money. And guess what? Joanne's only paid like a couple $100 buyout for you to get your art on their fabric.
Yeah. And if they hadn't had your art on their fabric, they'd have a bunch of white fabric, right? Or solid color fabric that nobody wanted to buy.
Right. If you think about the like enormous disparity between CEO pays at some of these big companies that we're approaching, like, Anthropology is another one that everyone loves, right? Like the CEO of Urban, which owns them, makes at least $3 million a year, right?
Yeah.
They can afford to pay us more. Yes, they have huge amounts of overhead. They are huge. But I'm like, there is room. If the CEO can get paid that much, right? Why can't artists get paid what we deserve and like a living wage so that so many of us don't have to have second and third jobs?
Right. But you're speaking to kind of like the sacred cow, right? Like, this is why I hate, like, I grew to hate my MBA. I had to take this economics course, and I got a C. And I got a C, not because I didn't understand what the fuck was going on, but because I got into an argument with the teacher.
You like to argue, don't you?
I get really fucking pissed off by shit, especially when you're trying to sell me dumb shit that I know is not true. But we also had to do this assignment, and I remember reading, all about how stock prices go up when layoffs happen. And I was like, that is what is intrinsically fucking wrong, because those are people and those are salaries. And those are, and if you think about it, you're laying people off, which means they can't spend in our economy. And I'm not going to get any more into like the economics of it all. But the sheer fact that a layoff equals higher stock prices. And I'm like, that is the problem, because we do not value people and we do not value talent. And that brings it back to surface design, right? Yeah. Because Shannon, what you said about how they can't sell the fucking product without us, right? And so that brings me to corporations that are publicly owned, right? So I put my art on Fine Art America. Am I making a killing? No, the fuck I am not. But the reason why I chose that company is because they are not publicly owned. All right. So yes, I understand I'm enriching a small group of people who are I don't actually know how many owners there are of the company, right? So I get that I'm enriching an individual or maybe a group of individuals, but they are not publicly owned, which means they don't have to make decisions to support a shareholder's stock price.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Where that is what's king to them is our shareholders more money.
Yes. Exactly.
And unfortunately, a lot of the big companies, Target, Anthropology, Joann's, like that's what they're chasing.
Right. Exactly. And that's why we ended up getting shit on as, somehow not being valued. Like they're trying, I feel like they're trying to brainwash us that we need them. No, you need us.
Yeah, but that is so true though. Yeah, that is the attitude I've even run into in negotiations.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we'll just go to the next artist on our list, right? Like, I mean, I haven't ever gotten an email that was that shitty, but like that's the vibe sometimes, where it's just like, oh, okay, you're too expensive for me, and I'm like, okay, that's good. Like, bye bye.
Yep. Oh, I've had almost that exact email come to me.
I had one in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was in writing. And this was, and for context, it was a contract for my 4th book with this publisher. My first book went to number 34 on Amazon's top paid. So not category, I'm talking top paid. I made them a shit ton of money. And so they tried to take me from a royalty rate of 50% down to 20% because that had, in the time between writing these books, which was 3 years, the industry had shifted. And I was like, no, you're not changing my royalty rate. And you said, because I found the article on fucking Line that said I was your best-selling author. So no.
Yeah.
And she wrote back, was like, well, then we can just not do this contract. And I wrote the CEO and I was like, get this. I own 100% of these fucking rights right now. I don't have to give you nothing.
Yeah.
And the CEO wrote back,
I do, you know, publisher will make a killing. Yeah.
Right? I'm like, and I am hearing, I do argue with a lot of people. And, and she kind of wrote and incorporated the lady, because this was somebody new in the agency, and was like, no, we will give her royalty rate.
Yeah.
Well, you know, for yourself. I think I have a feeling you'd make a good agent.
Yeah. I think she would too. Well, you know,
that's a lot of it is nicely arguing, you know, like, well, let's try and meet in the middle and, you know.
Right. Diplomatically assertive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a much better way to put it. Yeah.
The reason that I think a lot of this happens too is because that is like the number, and I have no MBA, but the number one rule of negotiation is always be willing to walk away.
Yeah.
And or bluff and actually walk away and see what happens. I mean, if you're buying a car, that's what they tell you to do. You know, leave the dealership, you'll get to the parking lot, you put your keys in your car, and then they come running out. Not always. And if they don't, then that's fine, you know, but you definitely do have to be willing to walk away. But I mean, I've had multiple companies, even recently, that wanted to pay me not what I'm worth. And then I push back very politely, very professionally, and say, well, this is what I'm worth. And, you know, if that is not something we can make happen, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to proceed. And then they pull the, 10 bluffing, walking away. And they're like, well, we have plenty of other, you know, artists that would love to work with us. And that also are okay with these terms, because there were issues with the terms. My attorney had looked at them and was like, no. And I said, that's great. I wish you the best, you know, and because I'm walking away for real. And, but you know, it's like, that's scary. So let me tell you that I have not always been able to do that. Granted, also I have a graphic design background, but like, even when I got into surface design, it was like I was starting all over again. And I felt like I was 20 because I didn't know this industry. And I didn't know it's very different from being a freelance graphic designer or an in-house designer, even if you are designing patterns. And, you know, it was scary for me. But, you know, for those of you out there, I mean, listen to us. Like, you are worth it, because I did it too. Everyone does it. But you don't want to get roped into something that you will get, you know, screwed. It's better to walk away. There will be more jobs.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is, I bet all of us, you know, like Carrie, I'm sure you can speak to this, and I know I can, where if I've taken less than I wanted and then I regret it.
Oh yeah.
I regret those.
I should have given them a higher price.
100%.
I regret those so much more than the times I walked away.
Yeah. Yeah. You know? Because what do they call it? Leaving money on the table or something like that. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Or you find out that they paid somebody else more later on down the road, and you're like,
that was one of my favorite things at the trade shows. I exhibited at Surtex a number of years. And so, you know, got close with a lot of people. And so, you know, there'd be certain people that would go to every single booth. And, you know, if I was friendly with someone, you know, like Liz Meitinger was one of my favorites, that they would usually stop and buy from both of us. And so, like, okay, well, let's compare. Like, what did you know? And she always got more than I did. You know, like, she always got more. Okay, then now I know next time to ask for more. You know, so yeah,
cool.
It's tough. Yeah,
it sounds like we're getting to the point where we should be offering advice.
I don't know why I just started laughing spontaneously.
Probably because we could bitch about this forever.
And because it's like, oh God, now we have to tell people how to handle all this mess. We can do it. We can do it.
We can do it. We can do it. Shannon, you want to go first? What advice do you have? Because we always try to end on hope.
Oh yeah, I mean, yes, there has been a lot of angst, right, in this episode. But no, I mean, the good news is there's always room to charge more. Honestly, I truly believe that. If you want me to give you some actual numbers, I will give you some actual numbers, people. If you're someone who does buyouts, never charge less than $1,000. And honestly, you should be charging more than that, especially if it's a complex piece, right? Like that's like, to me, bare minimum is $1,000 for a buyout. Licensing, again, it does depend on a lot of different factors, but let's say, 3 years average worldwide for, one market. I would probably charge around $600 to $700 for that. And then
what about royalty percentage?
So again, royalty percentage, I would have to know the multiple numbers, right? The percentage of the royalty, the amount that they expect to produce, and the price that the royalty is based on. Multiply those three, and does it fit the flat fee price? Is it within that $600 to $700? If it is, cool. So those are kind of my just very baseline, very generic. But again, I would always urge people to charge more. Like the licensing price from the 2024 survey was $376. That was the average.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I'm like, okay, so if we can get closer to double that, I will be happy.
Yeah. Thank you for giving real numbers. That's excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Carrie, what about you?
My advice would be like, just try that little voice in your head. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Don't believe everything you think.
This is going to be our next supercut.
Oh my God. It's because my mom is a therapist and I approach the world through her eyes sometimes, but it's true. So if you're, in the dilemma, if you're in the thick of it and you're going back and forth, or even, a company is asking how much you charge for whether it's royalties or flat fee or buyout or even a freelance project, just because you think that if you tell them a dollar amount, they're going to walk away. And then if they do walk away, or, you're spiraling and you think, I'll never get, when is the next one coming? I'll never get another one, or I'll never get another opportunity like this one again. Don't believe that, because that is your fear talking. And I'm not a therapist, but I'm speaking from experience that, like, don't lead with your fear. Don't let your fear guide you. That is a terrible way to live. It's a terrible way to work. I know it's hard not to do that, especially in this era. But just try to take a deep breath. Also, my other piece of advice is, if you're having trouble and you're negotiating prices, you can always wait. Say, give me a moment. Let me think about that. Go look overnight. Go ask people. I personally, if somebody asked me, I'd be completely transparent. And I know lots and lots of other artists that would also be honest, transparent. Reach out to a family friend, an attorney, somebody, anybody, your boyfriend, it doesn't matter. But just get another opinion, and don't be afraid to wait and make these companies wait just 24 hours while you think about it. Don't jump. That's one of the reasons that scams and con artists work. How they operate is they give you a sense of urgency. Don't do that. There is no urgency.
Nothing is ever, it has to happen immediately in this industry. Yeah.
No,
well,
exactly.
and kind of, if I can piggyback on what you just said, Carrie, like another thing that comes to mind when you guys are, sending out your prices is, I have done this so many times where you put a price in and then you reread it and you go, oh no, that's too high. And you put it lower, put it back to the higher number, whatever it was, put it back to the higher number. You'll be so glad you did. And again, even if it falls through, it's like, at least I put my best foot forward with what I know my art is worth.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I'm going to say this, but also saying I want to throw out there that I understand I come from a place of privilege because I have made the conscious decision for 30 years to never leave my full-time job. Yeah. So I never had to use my art to pay my bills, but it needs to pay its own way. Know your worth, right? Like, to me, that's the most important thing, is to understand you are not competing against a product. You are pricing your value for who you are as an artist. Mm-hmm. And that should not be compromised, right? Yeah. Now that said, yes, I have taken projects because I just needed to get a couple bucks to make sure that, whatever expense in my business was paid. And I hated myself later and, had to go take a shower and all of that stuff. We all do it. But when it's really important, when it comes down to the wire, your prices reflect who you see yourself as an artist. So choose wisely. So,
well, and I would also say there's no shame in having, I love the fact that you have a full-time job and proudly talk about that in your in this podcast, because there's so much shame around having to have a job when you're an artist. Well, newsflash, people, everyone, every time we've done it in the survey, those who have full-time jobs will make more money with having another job. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And if it releases the pressure from you having to, undercut yourself with pricing for your art, that's huge.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So cool. All right. The fun part of the show.
Or at least I could keep going on and on.
I know. This episode could seriously be 6 hours long, just talking about all this stuff. But
yeah. For real. Exactly.
My husband would get hungry.
And mine's being forced to be very quiet right now. So, all right. But hot seat questions. This is my favorite part of the show. So, Shannon, what is your least favorite oh God, I couldn't even get the words out. Least favorite software platform that everyone loves, but you just can't?
ChatGPT.
Tell us more.
I fucking hate it. And I also, so I'm a bit of a hippie, sustainability, all of that kind of stuff. I fully believe in that. And so obviously there's a whole other conversation about, the resources that it's using and all that. Yeah. So that's definitely part of why I specifically hate, all AI, but especially ChatGPT. But for me, in the conversation that we're having, is I really hate the hypocrisy of artists using ChatGPT when they rally against Midjourney and the other visual generative AI platforms, because how is it any different? Because ChatGPT was built off of stolen words from writers.
Yeah.
How is that any different from Midjourney and all those others using our stolen art? To me, there is no distinction whatsoever. So honestly, I get really, really fired up about this.
I can't believe this, and I'm maybe going to embarrass myself by admitting it. That hadn't even dawned on me. I'm really glad you said that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, there's been Sarah Silverman was part of a lawsuit against OpenAI.
OpenAI, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because her stuff was stolen, and but that's how you can put into ChatGPT, make me sound like Brene Brown, and it can make you sound like that because they scraped all of her books. And that's a lot of what ChatGPT is built on. And so for me, I cannot with a clear conscience use it when I think that, not getting compensated as an artist is disgusting. This whole conversation where I'm charge what you're worth. Well, hello, you shouldn't be also in the same, on the other side of it, than using tools that were then they're getting used off of the backs of other artists.
Mm-hmm. So this is interesting to me. I don't use it in any of my art or my writing. And then I read an article that was like, it's killing your thinking skills. And so you should never let it ideate or create for you. But consider writing that draft and saying, what am I missing? Or something like that. So that has changed. So like, I will be like, okay, here's my first draft. Don your editing hat and tell me where I'm being unclear or where I've missed a point or something like that. Mm-hmm. Because yeah, like I can't say I was really thinking about how, cause like the New York Times sued them as well. Mm-hmm. That I was really thinking about that, but I was like, no, things have to be authentically me, but I also am not always like, I don't always have somebody to edit my shit behind me. You know what I'm saying? And so I've begun to use it in that way, where I'm always drafting, but like, take a look at this and be like, and I've had a couple times where it's like, I don't like ChatGPT will be like, I don't understand what you have said here.
Well, just having that
very good assistant, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't begrudge you for using it in that way. And like, I don't want to sound like, anybody who uses AI for anything is evil. But I personally, in good conscience, can't use it for even that kind of stuff. Like, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
Like
it's just not in my nature. And that's just how I personally feel. But that's just
I get it.
If like anybody else listening, if you completely disagree, that's fine.
Yeah. Which is tricky. I mean, Tony and I are both writers. Tony's much more of a writer than I am, but I guess part of it is because I've never gotten onto an AI platform and said, make me look like, or make this look like, or make me sound like. But then I don't think about the fact that if I say, like, if I'm doing an Instagram post and I'm like, oh my God, am I going to post another thing where it's like, here's a cat, you know, and I'm like, make this punchier or whatever. And now I'm like, oh no, whose large language model is this using to make it quote punchier? I don't know why I tell it that word, but
it's a slippery slope. And that's the thing, is like, where's the line? Mm-hmm. And so that's just why I will never ever use ChatGPT.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, like, I've started to notice, like, I may not be 100% right. Like, cause it was really funny. I had one of the partners for the company I work with was like, asking for something, and I wrote it, and he came back, he goes, take out these words. It's so obvious it was AI. And I went back and I was like, no, I actually wrote that. And I don't know what that says about me as a writer, that you thought that was
You use big words, Tony. Too many big words.
It was like adjectives. And I was like, oh, but like, I'm good enough to know, like,
right?
Like no more, no more than one adjective. And I avoid adverbs and all those others, but he was like, it just sounds like it. And then he was like, well, I am a math major. So, and you're the writer.
Right. There you go.
I was like, okay, we'll just agree to disagree there.
Yeah.
But that's real. But yeah, no, where I was going with that was there's a phrase called chef's kiss. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my God, if I see that one more time, that's not suddenly making its way into our discourse that is AI. And it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe the other aspect that we haven't thought about enough is like, there are certain things that are making things quicker, like Instagram posts and that kind of stuff. But because I always hated writing Instagram posts for sketch design repeat, but I don't know, like, to me, there's just something a little lost with having it write for us too. Mm-hmm. Like editing and that kind of stuff like that, I can completely understand, but like actually having it, even making a caption punchier, right? Where it's just like, well, if I just sat here for 5 minutes, I could probably think of an idea, and it would take me 5 minutes more. And like, it's that almost the instantaneousness of our society, right? Like everything has to be just immediate. And
well, that's that hustle culture again.
And
right, exactly.
I mean, that was one of the main reasons we moved to Europe, was to like slow down and everything. And so like, I am so anti that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I totally get you. My husband and I went on a 10-day trip recently, and we toured 4 different South American countries. And one of the reasons was we were planning to eventually leave the United States. And, you know, specifically Costa Rica and Honduras were kind of like where we felt most like, okay, yeah, we could do this. But like just the whole vibe of not feeling, nobody was in a rush to get anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And nobody was like pushing you out of the way because they had to get, you know, or any of these things. And it was just like, oh, like you just felt your whole body relax. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God.
And because of that, people are more conscientious. They're nicer. So you feel better. You're not as agitated and anxious because you're like being pushed down the street by people that are like, get out of my way, hurry, hurry, hurry.
Right, exactly. That's why I can't ever do New York. But anyway, that's a whole different conversation.
The funny thing is I love New York. I thrive in that kind of environment. That's why I worked in film for 16 years.
I
was getting burnt out
for doses of it, right? Like I always said, like I spent a summer there. I actually worked at People magazine as an intern, but I could never live there full time. Like I like tastes of it, you know.
That's where I'm at. Yeah, it's great in small doses. So, okay, next question. Least favorite buzzword that you wish you could erase from everyone's vocabulary.
So it's hard to pick like a word.
It can be a phrase.
Or a phrase. Yeah.
So this one I have a hard time with because I'm just like, there's so many different things in my head. And of course they're all like flying out of my head at the same time, where I'm just like, wait, what was that? Can we come back to that one?
We can come back to that one. All right. Least favorite piece of advice you hear floating around our industry.
So for me, it's probably the, you know, if you dream it and if you make lovely things, it'll just happen and you'll make lots of money and things will be good. You know, like that dream of it all, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree with you.
There's a book that's called Do What You Love, The Money Will Follow from
Is there
80s or 90s? I believe so. Yeah, I've never read it, but I've seen it on shelves. I think it's from the 80s or 90s. I don't know. I don't know what it's about. I can kind of guess though.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I think especially in this industry, there's so much emphasis on the art and not enough on the business and like the actual like hitting the ground and pitching and like all the nitty gritty stuff that you know, a lot of people don't want to talk about because it's not the fun stuff.
Exactly.
It's like, we'll just make this beautiful thing and the money will just roll in. Well, no, you've got to market yourself. That's probably going to be most of your job. And guess what? If you don't like marketing yourself as an artist, get an in-house design job because you'll be happier, you know, like.
No, 100%. It's why I was like, I mean, I do have a self-published book, but it's why the majority of my books are published through a traditional publisher. I don't want to do all of the things that go with making a book successful.
I have to do a quick name drop here. So Peggy Dean, who I just absolutely love, and maybe she should join us at some point. You and I were on a panel recently, and she was asked for advice, and she said something that was like, oh my God, she's so right. And yes, I do that. And you have to be willing to do that. She said, like, for every piece of visual art you create, you have to spend twice the amount of hours marketing it. You have to put it on social media. You have to pitch it. You have to, put it in your portfolio. You have to share it this many times. You have to talk about it. You have to show your process for it. Not always, but I mean, if you really want to make the kind of money that you want to make on that you have to put in all of that stuff. And, it has to be usually twice the amount of time. Yep. So maybe we should have her on at some point because I had never heard anyone say it so succinctly. And it's true. It's true.
Yeah. I would say at least double.
Right.
More.
More. Exactly.
So true.
Yeah. Has a buzzword come to you, Shannon?
So I would say for me, there's like one way to do something. Like this blank is how you do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever that is, right? Like you have to use Illustrator to be successful. You have to design in large collections. You have to you like those kinds of things. And right, so it's like that's why it's like it's not really a buzzword, but like that kind of messaging doesn't work. We're all individual artists, multi-passionate, most of us, right? And so what works for me is not going to work for you, is not going to work for you. Like everyone's going to be a little bit different. And so whenever I was teaching, I always tried to make it clear that I'm like, this is how I did it. This does not mean this is how you have to do it, right? Like this is what worked for me. But like, for example, I love Airtable. Airtable was featured in a lot of my courses. Picture portfolio is probably the biggest one where I gave everybody like all of my, templates and things. Well, some of the students, Airtable didn't work for them. So they created a Notion board for themselves. And I was like, that's great. Was that you?
Because I do have your course, Picture Portfolio, but I was very much like, let me just recreate this in Notion because I don't like Airtable. And
that's the thing is like that it works for my brain, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. And so having just like this one thing is going to be the thing that gets everybody over the line. I'm like, no.
I agree with you 100%. And, Carrie and I go back and forth a lot because she's Illustrator on Photoshop, and so, we're always kind of like jokingly like, I'm always like, I hate Illustrator, which I don't. I will use it in its appropriate time for me. But, I don't like, in fact, we just did an entire episode with Allie Hooten about the concept of blueprint, like that there is a prescribed way to do anything in this industry. And some people want that, but it doesn't exist because it's simply not true, right? There's too many ways, like, it just makes me think about like Word. Cause my first job in life was a secretary. Okay. And so I learned Word when it was still keyboard commands, like literally like Windows for DOS, like that. I guess that's how old I am. And so to this day, I navigate these programs primarily through keyboard commands. And these youngins that come into the world and they're like trying to do something, I'm like, can you please just hit Control V? Please don't force me to watch you mouse anymore. Please just do this.
Yeah, I learned similarly, and I didn't even think about that was why, but yes, same thing. Windows, good old Windows in the 90s.
But my point is like they can't wrap their minds around the fact that I can do all this stuff without taking my hands off the keyboard, and I'm sitting there watching them going slowly mad because I'm like, you're taking too much fucking time. And the same holds true here, Anyway.
I love that as an example, though.
All right. Well, I think that is a wrap. This has been an amazing episode. I'm so glad you were here. But before we let you go, tell everyone where they can find you.
So the best place to find me right now, at least, is my personal Instagram, which is S McNab Studio at the moment. And then if you go to Sketch Design Repeat, that Instagram, there will always be a link to the most recent survey. So obviously we're talking about the survey. So the 2025 results will be there. So if you want to get the most recent one, and it'll get you signed up for my newsletter, which I don't send very often anymore, but I occasionally send updates. So
very cool.
That's awesome. Where I am at these days. Mostly in my own home, doing my own thing.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking time to be here with us.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. Like, I've heard such good things about your podcast that when I got the email, I was super excited. So
yay.
Oh, thank you.
If you're loving this podcast, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, we'd love it if you could rate and review us. Your support helps more people discover the show, and it keeps us going strong. Thanks for tuning in. It means a lot. I'm Tony.
And I'm Carrie. it's okay to be cranky.
In the meantime, keep creating.
Two Cranky Creatives is produced by me, Tony Federico, and my co-host, Carrie Cantwell. Carrie handles sound editing, I wrangle marketing and communications, and together we keep this cranky train on the tracks. Thanks for listening.